The following is a local resident producers program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Access Television, the City of Oshkosh, the Oshkosh Cable Television Advisory Commission, or Time Warner Cable.
Hello. In just a few minutes, you will witness Progress Oshkosh's City Council candidacy debate, filmed in late February at the Grand Opera House. But before we air this hour-long question and answer session, I would like to take a moment of your time and tell you about Progress Oshkosh, the host of this event. Progress Oshkosh is a volunteer, issue-based organization dedicated to bringing progressive change to Oshkosh and its citizenry. With a diverse membership, Progress Oshkosh was established nearly a year ago on 4 principles: economic development, accountability for city and county officials, quality of life, public, private, and nonprofit partnerships. The membership, open to any person who holds these ideals at heart, is working to champion projects and issues through time, talent, and resources. Hundreds of volunteers are working together by communicating, committee planning, and researching in the hopes of better educating all of us regarding the facts surrounding issues that face Oshkosh's future. This film debate is only one of the ways Progress Oshkosh's members have chosen to tackle this process. Candidates Brian Bain, Cheryl Hintz, Joe Youngworth, Councilmember Shirley Maddox, and Meredith Shireman were able to attend and offer their viewpoints from the questions posed specific to Progress Oshkosh's 4 principles. Progress Oshkosh would specifically like to thank the debate sponsors, including the Grand Opera House, Citizens First Credit Union, First Choice Insurance Company, Supli Restaurant Group, Schmiedel Real Estate Management, and Nebula Studios. Additionally, an hour prior to this debate being filmed, Progress Oshkosh hosted a mayoral debate as well with candidates Bill Castle and Paul Esslinger. This half-hour presentation is also running at scheduled times on Oshkosh's Community Channel 2. So finally, I would like to encourage everyone to join and support this volunteer group so we can make a difference. For more information regarding Progress Oshkosh, please visit our soon-to-be-completed website at progressoshkosh.com or stay through to the end of the debate for the credits. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to the City Council debate sponsored this evening by Progress Oshkosh. We would like to welcome the 5 candidates that were able to attend this evening, and let's run over the rules for this evening's debate. The debate format will provide each candidate up to 3 minutes to respond to the 3 questions which were chosen by our committee. After each candidate has completed their response to each question, we will allow up to 1 minute for each of the candidates to respond to their opponent's positions. Any questions? What we will do first is allow you 30 seconds for an introduction, and we will do this in alphabetical order, and we will start with Brian Bain.
Good evening and thank you. My name is Brian Bain and I'm running for the Oshkosh-Common Council. I would like to thank the sponsors of this evening's event and the coordinator of Progress Oshkosh. I am running because I believe this is one of the most important elections in recent history. We are on the verge of writing the next great chapter in our community, and I would like to be a part of that. I've talked about creating a shared vision and ask for your vote on April 5th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bain. Next is Cheryl Hintz.
Thank you and good evening. I am Cheryl Hintz. This is my first attempt at running for City Council. I got into the race for 2 main reasons. Number 1, I feel that citizens need to have more input in city government, and secondly, I believe that we need more responsible spending from our city leaders. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hintz. Joe Youngworth.
Hello, I am Joe Youngworth. I am running for the Oshkosh-Common Council because I do believe that I can make a difference for the city of Oshkosh. I am a 2-time candidate for the Oshkosh-Common Council, being narrowly defeated by Mr. Bergtauer last year in a very good election. I am happy to see the turnout of all the candidates that ran this year. I think that shows that people want to be a part of the city of Oshkosh and the decision making, and I would like a chance to do that for the city of Oshkosh. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Youngworth. Next, Shirley Maddox.
Hello, I'm Shirley Brabander Maddox. I'm a retired teacher, and now that I'm retired for 6 years, I have the time to serve the city. I'm running for my 3rd term on the city council, and I believe my ideals of my mission are still the same as when I first ran. I believe in smart growth, that we must develop what we have, and instead of spreading further outwards, we look inward and redevelop. I believe in revitalizing our downtown and our older neighborhoods, and I feel that our gem is our waterfront, 22 miles we have, and I believe that the riverfront is very important for the future of Oshkosh.
Thank you, Mrs. Maddox. And finally, Meredith Shireman.
Good evening. My name is Meredith Shireman, and I'm running for City Council and ask for your vote respectfully on Tuesday, April 5th. My platform continues to be the same. Quite frankly, the reason I'm running is Oshkosh right now has great momentum, and I want to make sure that it continues to be this great place to live and do business. As you may or may not know, I was the top vote getter in the primary, but more importantly, I placed in the top positions in every district in this city, and what that tells you is that I'm a real voice for the city of Oshkosh. I do live on the west side, and I do work downtown, but I'm a real voice for every citizen in the city in Oshkosh. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Shireman. Progress Oshkosh is a group of volunteers who are concerned citizens. This group of citizens has agreed on 4 points that are extremely important to Oshkosh. Those 4 points are promoting economic development, increasing quality of life, ensuring accountability for government officials, and finally, encouraging collaboration between public and private entities. The questions that you were given over a week ago are centered around those 4 points that Progress Oshkosh is concerned with. We have randomly drawn and have determined answering orders for each of the questions. The first question will begin with Mrs. Maddox. Mrs. Maddox, how can a city council member promote public and private sector partnerships?
Well, the first thing I can do is to be positive. When the private sector considers doing a project partnering with the city, I have to consider, will that be of benefit to the city? Then I need to investigate all the positives and the negatives of the proposal, and what will be the eventual advantage for the city, and what will be the burdens. My most important position is as a supporter. I'm on the council, and that's where my power comes. It goes beyond just the vote at a council meeting, however. It's in support. Over the past few years, we have seen some brilliant success stories of public-private partnerships. The Senior Citizen Center, which is probably hands down the most outstanding senior center in Wisconsin, was accomplished through the support of city and citizens. The golf course, which was reconstructed, this was achieved through the city and private citizens working together. On Main Street, we have the Webster Block, which opened last year with 12 marvelous apartments upstairs and 2 successful businesses downstairs, another city public private partnership. The Bent Block across the street, the Wagoner Opera House, which Terry Labe has redone with apartments upstairs, business downstairs. Marion Road, which had the shells of old industry, and we are now making way for new development. We have a commercial mall with restaurants, and there's housing near enough for the university to stretch that link and to expand towards the downtown. City Center is refilled with 1,600 employees and a wonderful city, which has increased the tax base tremendously for the benefit of us all. And most recently, Riverside Park and the amphitheater are an example of public and private partners creating something together. And it's to benefit the entire city, and in the case of the amphitheater, Northeast Wisconsin. I think the big word is private, public, positive support.
Thank you, Shirley.
You're welcome.
Meredith Sharman, you're next. How can a city council member promote public and private sector partnerships?
I believe there are two things council members can do to promote public and private partnerships. First, it is important for city council members to support vocally public and private partnerships. We currently do this through different vehicles, ChampGo, OCDC, etc. By continuing to invest in the city, it shows potential developers we feel strong and committed to the partnership, because if we don't contribute, the question must be asked, why should they? Second, it's imperative that city council members are open-minded regarding public and private partnerships. For instance, a council member must be a strong leader for this great city and actually be a spokesperson when it comes to how we can partner together with private businesses. We must be global thinkers, we must be proactive, and we must be positive regarding these partnerships.
Thank you. Mr. Youngworth.
Well,
How-
there are, oh, I'm sorry.
Let me ask you the question.
Okay.
How can a city council member promote public and private sector partnerships?
Well, I think there are a couple different ways also that to promote this. For examples, we have TIF districts, we have block grant funds. But the bottom line for me is that we've got to look at these and make sure that all these projects make financial sense and are going to help the taxpayers in the city of Oshkosh. We must take a good look at each project individually to determine if they do make sense. In the case of the band shell, it's been noted that I was against the band shell being built. I felt with cuts from shared revenue and the closing of our pool and other things like that and tight budget that we didn't need it at that time. And if anyone saw the council meeting on February 22nd, the proposal came from PMI to the city council that they would receive $30,000 or 10% of the revenue generated to be paid to the city. To me, this does not make any sense. That number, the $30,000, is just basically going to cover the projected cost of maintenance to the facility. And it was I was under the impression that that money was going to be spent, that we spent on the bathrooms, were going to be repaid to the taxpayers. I fully support the completion of this band shell, and that we've got to get it off the ground and we've got to make it the best that we can make it. Thank you.
Cheryl Hentz. How can a city council member promote public and private sector partnerships?
Well, I agree with Mrs. Shireman that certainly we have to keep an open mind and take a positive approach to proposed development. But along with that, I think there are a couple of key points. It's called public-private partnerships. And if you're going to ask the public to be involved by paying the bill at the end of the project being developed, then you need to get the public involved up front. You need to get public buy-in, and that is what has been wrong with some of what this city council that we currently have, I believe, has been doing. You don't ask people to put in millions of dollars of money into a project without getting buy-in from them in the first place. You don't railroad a project through within 3 weeks period of time, if that. Keep an open mind. Don't say no right up front. Look at everything, but make sure that you know all the different facets of the project as you're going into it before you approve it, and make sure you have some kind of public buy-in, and that means having a lot of public meetings and doing some fundraising up front.
Thank you,
rather than
Cheryl.
putting everything on the back of the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Bain, how can a city council member promote public and private sector partnerships?
As a council member, I could help set the tone through my words and actions. I believe it is critical. I agree with Cheryl. We need to involve the public in the public-private sector partnerships. We should have open meetings. We should have open forums where we can discuss the partnerships that are in place, that people who have come to the table and willing to make a solid investment in this community. I believe that we need to make sure that City Hall is business-friendly and plays a supporting role and is not adversarial. We need to show appreciation for and recognize the successful partnerships that currently exist in our community. Those points of pride are something that we should be excited about, we should be proud about, and we should go out and advocate and let other private sector businesses know that they can come to Oshkosh and be welcome to partner up with us. I will embrace new partners who are willing to come to the table and have discussions with them, listen to them, have them share their ideas, and then again, turn around, like Cheryl had mentioned, go out into the community and share that information so that we can get that buy-in. We need to look at some successful examples in terms of Madison. Look at Madison. They're close to raising $4 million for a brand new city pool, an excellent partnership between the public and private sector. And I believe the city should do a better job at explaining that the word partnership doesn't mean tax giveaway. It is a partnership, and we should enter into that proactively and positively. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bain. Each of you now will have 1 minute to respond, and we will go in the same order. Mrs. Maddox, you have 1 minute.
So I can ask someone a question?
No, this would be just a response to what you've just heard.
Okay, I guess the one thing I'd like to respond to is the question about the $30,000 minimum, and the contract has not been written or settled yet, but that would be minimum. And the more business that is done in the amphitheater, for example, $600,000 of business is done, the city would have $60,000. And so there would be, both for the management company and the city, a reason to make this a very successful venue. And so that I think we could even say that that $30,000 could go for the maintenance, and whatever's left could go for paying off the debt.
Thank you, Mrs. Maddox. Mrs. Shireman.
One of the first things that comes to mind is when we talk all the time about getting the citizens involved, and I completely agree with that. But I also think there needs to be an empowerment from the citizens to get involved. Many people rely on the newspaper as their only source of information, and I encourage citizens all the time to whether it be call council members or call Mr. Wolnick or call Mr. Kinney or whatever, because let's just use the amphitheater. I mean, that's been on the books since 1993 in the comprehensive plan. It doesn't feel like this is a new concept. I understand that they had several town meetings. I was told up to 300-400 people at times attended these meetings, and it feels like there was a lot of collaboration that went on. And I hear all the time, but that this was, shoved down our throat. When in actuality, when something's been on the books for over 12 years, I don't really feel like that's been shoved down our throat, for instance. So I'm empowering citizens to get involved with city government as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Shireman. Mr. Youngworth.
I agree with Meredith in the fact that I really would like to see it. I think we saw that this year in the primary, the amount of candidates running from 19 to whatever. I mean, the young people are getting involved. I think that is very important. I get stopped a lot, and people talk to me about the issues in the city, and you ask them, have they voted or have you called? And they like to complain about it, it seems like, but they don't want to take an active role in it. And so I urge the people to go out there, ask the questions, talk to city staff, and you can get your questions answered and you'll know more about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Youngworth. Ms. Hentz.
Well, I would just like to respond to something that Mrs. Shireman said. She said that the band shell has been on the books for over 12 years. I don't know if the band shell itself was actually in the comprehensive plan, but if it has been on the books for 12 years, then I guess I'm at a loss to understand why this current city council still doesn't know what they're doing, who's going to operate it, how the city is going to benefit from it, and how the city is actually going to pay for it. Seems like if we've had 12 years to look at this, we should have these answers. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Bain.
Sure. I think the one thing I wanted to comment on is this is not the time. I can't disagree more. We are at a critical point where shared revenue is being cut, utilities are increasing, and the cost of running government is increasing. And if we don't make an investment, if we don't partner up with the private sector, with the public sector, we will have to either raise taxes on what we currently have, or we're going to have to make cuts in our current government. And those cuts equal jobs. 75% of our budget comes from personnel, and I haven't heard anyone say who's against the development or against making these partnerships where they would make those cuts.
Thank you, Mr. Bain. Our second question will begin with a reply from Cheryl Hentz, And the question is, describe specific initiatives a city council member can spearhead to improve accountability of city personnel.
Well, I'm not sure that one person alone can spearhead something because it does require 4 votes out of the 7 in order to put something forward. But I do think that accountability does need to be improved on a number of different levels and has to start at the top with our city manager and go on down. I also think accountability has to be in place for the city council members as well. But when you're talking about improving accountability within City Hall and city personnel, a perfect example was the inspections department. We spent $12,000 of city taxpayers' money to do a study of the inspections department. We still don't know what the results of that were. First of all, the state could have done it free, and they volunteered their services to do it free. But instead, we spent $12,000 to have a department at the university do the study, and the results haven't been made public. We still have a problem with contractors bashing the inspections department, and I think it's something that we need to get resolved. So I think when we spend money to do a study, we need to then take a look at the results of that study and put some things in place to make sure that accountability is kept in check. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hens. Mr. Bain, describe specific initiatives a city council member can spearhead to improve accountability of city personnel.
First, I believe that it's important to not micromanage the city manager, but I believe as the managers of the city manager, the council has a role in holding the city personnel and the manager accountable. I believe that improved accountability starts at the top. I believe that my years through supervisory experience have taught me to be upfront and honest with all expectations and have some clear guidelines as to when those expectations are met, what will happen, and what will happen if those expectations are not met. I believe that every year the city manager should come up with goals and objectives that he or she likes to accomplish or would like to accomplish and share those with the council, share those with the public, so that we will know what the agenda is for that year and we can work as a council with the city manager to help hold him accountable. In addition to that, I would like to see him do that and share that information with the council and city on the city staff as well. Goals and objectives are less likely to be implemented without an action plan, so I think it's important that we ask, and I would ask as a council member, what are you going to do to make the steps necessary to accomplish the goals that you've set forth? I believe that it's important for us to get citizen feedback, and so what I would like to do is survey the citizens or have an opportunity of comment cards available at the different areas in City Hall or online on the city's website. We should not be afraid of feedback, both positive and negative. The citizens of Oshkosh are the ones who pay the bill. They are our customers, they are our paying customers, and they should be treated as such. We need to know how they feel about what we're doing in city. Again, like I said, the ongoing feedback, I think that's important. I think that lines of communication need to be there, and I think that's important for us to work with our commissions and our boards to make sure that those meetings are being aired on TV, and if they're not, that the minutes of those commissions and boards are readily accessible to the public out on the website and within City Hall. We need to let people know where they can find it, not expect them to ask us where to find it. I believe that listening sessions are important. I've proposed an opportunity, the Fifth Tuesday Forums, where every month there was a Fifth Tuesday. As a council, I would invite the rest of the council to go out and to ask the citizens, what are we doing well? What do you like? What don't you like? What would you like to see changed? It's, again, I go back to, we shouldn't be afraid to hear feedback, whether critical, positive, or negative. Finally, I think that it's important for us to realize that we have an obligation as a council member and as a council, as a manager of the manager, to hold him and his staff accountable. The citizens hold us accountable through elections, and we need to make sure that we return that in holding the city manager accountable as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bain. Mrs. Maddox, describe specific initiatives a city council member can spearhead to improve accountability of city personnel.
Well, first of all, the city manager is responsible for the performance of city staff. For the last few years, the budgets have been extremely tight. Each department head has to cut materials, cut back professional journals, training seminars, cut staff through attrition. And although the city continues to grow, basically city staff at City Hall has stayed the same. So I'm speaking in their defense as far as they do have heavy workloads. However, every person must be treated with respect, civility, and helpfulness. It is one thing to know an answer, but it is another thing to be able to help someone else understand the answer of what you're trying to tell them. And I believe that most people working within the city exercise this respect and civility. And in cases where it is not, I believe that it immediately should be called to the attention of the city manager. I listen to citizens, and if they have a problem and I can't answer it, I usually turn it over to the city manager and the appropriate head of department. My power, basically as a counselor, is access and knowing who to call on what particular circumstance. And I think I also see my goal as helping to educate citizens in what the city can and cannot do. The city cannot come in and teach your next door neighbors how their kids should behave, and I've been asked to do that. I think sometimes we have unrealistic expectations of what the city can do. I think that whatever the councilor does in relation to citizens and city staff, the goal is to make life better within the city.
Thank you, Mrs. Maddox. Mr. Youngworth, describe specific initiatives a city council member can spearhead to improve accountability of city personnel.
Well, of course, accountability is very important, and we must hold our city personnel accountable for their job duties. There is a chain of command, and that is in any situation, in any job, there is a chain of command. And the city manager is responsible for city staff. The city council has a responsibility to the taxpayers of this city to make sure that the city is running efficiently. First of all, I think that as a council member, you must listen to the people of Oshkosh and find out what their concerns are with city personnel. And we must not only listen, but we must get those answers in a timely fashion. If this means that we have to go to the city manager with all the problems and all that, well, that's something that we have to do. Another example of keeping these people accountable is maybe having the department heads provide the council with a quarterly review of the job performances in their department. One example where I think things could have been different is after receiving many complaints, the city did spend thousands of taxpayer dollars to have a study completed in the inspections department, and the city council failed to do anything about that. I think these are areas where we need more accountability in the city. And I'm not pointing any fingers at anyone. I just think that we need to have more communication between the city council and the city staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Youngworth. Mrs. Shireman, describe specific initiatives a city council member can spearhead to improve accountability of city personnel.
I'm in support of two initiatives that I will ask for support should I get elected on Tuesday, April 5th. Excuse me. First, I believe accountability must start with proper goal setting. I believe the appraisal process should be reviewed to ensure that specific and measurable goals are handed out to all department heads. Within that appraisal, I think it needs to be explained what acceptable looks like and what not acceptable looks like, and possibly even consequences addressed. In addition, a review of these goals should be done at 90 days, 6 months, and year-end. And while I realize that that might be an aggressive approach and something that's not commonly done, that is how it is done in the business world. And I think that a little bit more of the business world should be brought back into city government. Second, something very easy and very elementary is I think a comment card should be made available to the public with every interaction they have with city personnel. I think these comment cards could also be sent out randomly to maybe phone users. I'm not opposed to it being online. Brian Bain made a good comment. It could be online. I'm not opposed to that at all. But upon receipt of these comment cards, I think they should go to the mayor. And I think the mayor then should get the council involved and the city manager involved to address the comments that and the feelings that are out there. So again, my two initiatives are a review of the appraisal process and a comment card put in place.
Thank you, Mrs. Shireman. Ms. Hens, you have 1 minute to respond.
I don't need that long. I think everybody has presented some good ideas. I particularly like the comment card option. I think that that's something that probably should be put in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bain, 1 minute.
Sure. Just two things. One, I wanted to echo some comments that were made about the inspections department. I think that that's a prime example of when there's some sort of assessment done in an area of city government. We work in the city government. We need to have some transparency there. We need to be able to build that trust even when it's a perception of lack of trust. So I think that that is important for us to share that information. And if on the council, that would be something that I would fight for. The quarterly review process, I think we need to be careful about asking for specific reviews. Personnel issues tend to be private, and I think we need to make sure that we're not invading on someone's personnel file or human resources type issues. But I do think that we need to fight for a little bit more transparency.
Thank you, Mr. Bain. Mrs. Maddox, 1 minute.
Goodness, I have lots. Regarding the inspections department, the UWO staff that was hired is specifically trained in this particular area of personnel, and I believe that it was very different from what the state would have done. The inspections department has installed tapes, cameras, to enable the city manager to evaluate if there is a problem, what the problem was, and then to rectify it. In fact, today I spoke to him about a problem. We can go back to the exact date and time and check it out. There is a monthly report that comes out, and each of the councilors get it, of what every department has done, police department, fire department, inspections, how many, whatever. All of these materials are available at the library. And for years before I was on the council, I went there either Friday evening or Saturday, and I pored over what was happening. But it's there. Goals are set by the city councilor for the city manager, and they are part of his evaluation, which we are going through now, right in this process. So I think I've got a minute's worth.
Thank you very much. Mr. Youngworth.
Well, I think everyone up here has some very good ideas, but getting back to the inspections department, I'm not sure that the problems that we're having in that department are related to having cameras and other things like that. I think where we're having our problems is out in the streets, is on job sites, when you have more than one inspector visiting that account, let's say, in any given time. Either, from my understanding, from the people that I've spoke to, they are getting two different answers or two different ideas from two different inspectors. I think that's where the problem lies, and I know we can get that department, and it might not always be the inspections department. I mean, you've got the builders and everything too, but we've got to hold these people accountable so we can start getting some progress in the city of Oshkosh. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Youngworth, and finally, Mrs. Shireman.
All of us have had some really great ideas, and I think it all is very fundamental to the accountability piece. I think if you took a little bit of what all of us said together and put that all together, we would, really look for a very strong 2005. Just one minor clarification. I wasn't sure if Mr. Bain was talking about my quarterly review, but clearly I wouldn't be asking for any kind of personnel issues to be divulged in the city light. If you have, for instance, a goal of improvement in customer service scores, for instance, say we do the comment card proposal and we put out there that we'd like to have a 90% satisfactory rate, and you come in at 90 days and you're at 60%, you clearly have a problem in that area. So more of my goals are like that. They're not putting personnel issues out in the limelight. So I just want to be very clear on that.
Thank you, Mrs. Chairman. And our final question this evening, and we will start with you, Mr. Youngworth. What will you do to encourage economic development?
Thank you. Well, It's tough for one city council member to do any one thing. I mean, like Cheryl said before, we need 4 votes. But we do have a community development department in the city of Oshkosh, which duties do include bringing developments to the city of Oshkosh. And we also have CHAMPCO and OCD to help us out in that department. I would, if elected, would listen to these groups, listen to their proposals and ideas with an open mind. I would also listen to existing businesses and have an open mind to that and listen to what they have to say. I want it to be made perfectly clear that I am not against development in the city of Oshkosh. I am for responsible spending. I am for progress and growth in this city, and we do have the tools and the means to do that. I believe that the taxpayers do have a right to be heard on development projects within the city, and I think one way of doing that would be you could have referendums for major projects, not every project that we want to do would I suggest we have a referendum for. But I do believe, if I'm correct in saying we had one for the library. We have this 5 River Resort Complex that's interested in coming to the city of Oshkosh, which I think is an excellent idea. I'm happy to say that they're looking at Oshkosh to have their complex here. I am very excited about seeing their proposal and look forward to helping Oshkosh grow in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Youngworth. Mr. Bain, what will you do to encourage economic development?
One of the first things that I would do is reach out to the existing businesses that we have in the community, industrial and commercial, and find out what we're doing well and what we're doing not so well in the community. Talk with these business leaders, find out what attracted them to Oshkosh, why are they staying, what can we do to encourage further development in the community. Along those same lines, I would continue to have the open forums, the Fifth Tuesday forums, or some other type of listening session or town halls to find out from the general public what would they like to see in terms of economic development within our community. I think we need to tap into a resource that we have right here in Oshkosh, and that is our UWO College of Business Administration. They are the professionals in these areas. They study the trends, and I think that we should talk with them about what are those trends in development. How do we as a city rate in development, and what role should we play in that economic development? Continuing along with the university, I think we need to make sure that we are continually partnering with UW-Oshkosh. The more Wisconsinites that have a college degree, the more the more that they add to our economy. The UW system, I believe, generates around $9 billion of economic impact in our community. And we have the 3rd largest here in Oshkosh. We need to make sure that we're partnering with them to create that economic opportunity. I think it's important for us to continue along the lines of asking the city manager, and I know Councilmember Maddox speaks about this, going to conferences and listservs and websites and finding out what are other communities doing. We do not have to reinvent the wheel. If there are successful practices and procedures in place elsewhere, let's talk to those individuals and let's see how we can bring those to Oshkosh and implement them. I think it's also important to work with the various boards and commissions here in the city to find out, are our zoning ordinances where they should be? Where's the comprehensive plan? There's a chapter in there about economic development. Are we in line with where that is? And if not, what can we do to become more in line with that? I think it's important for us to find out what are the city's goals, long range, short term, short range, etc. I also think that we need to make sure that our skilled workforce here in this community is ready to take on the new opportunities that might come in. And finally, I will continue to take pride in and speak positively about what we're doing here in Oshkosh. We are a thriving community, and like I said before, we are on the verge of writing our next great chapter in our history. There are things we can do better. I don't think anyone here disagrees with that, but everything is not doom and gloom. I believe pride is deep and hope is strong, and I will carry that message forward. We must proactively talk about the successes we have in the community. That helps further economic development. We need to help citizens understand how important this is to keeping taxes at a reasonable rate in an era of declining state aid and increased costs. I believe Oshkosh is a great place to live and do business, and I would make sure to continue to spread that so that we provide more development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bain. Mrs. Shireman. What will you do to encourage economic development?
Economic development is something that is often misunderstood. Some people feel that we don't need progress in this city. Some people actively even put it out there that it should be kept to a minimum. The bottom line is, with healthcare, utilities, construction, all kinds of costs continuing to increase, the tax base must increase, or a cut in services and/or jobs will happen. I still prefer to increase the tax base. I will do two things to encourage economic development. First, I'm going to continue to work hard to educate the citizens on the importance of economic development. We need to have continued buy-in, why we do what we do. Second, I'll be vocal on the pursuit of it as well. All City Council members represent the citizens of Oshkosh. We all look for a great quality of life. By continuing the pursuit of strong economic development, we will not only enjoy new amenities, but it will also increase our tax base, which should ultimately reduce our taxes, something that's good for all of us.
Thank you, Mrs. Shireman. Ms. Hentz, what will you do to encourage economic development?
Well, again, as I said before, it takes 4 votes out of the 7 on the City Council in order to get something approved, and then it certainly includes economic development ventures. But I think one thing that we need to look at is developing a house of economic development within the city government. It would be much like the Oshkosh Commercial Development Corporation, much like Champco. But I think that OCDC has failed miserably in its mission. When they are supposed to be promoting and retaining business within a city, and you have businesses leaving downtown in droves, and most of these people have never heard of Rob Clayman from OCDC or the organization itself, that tells me that they are falling short of their mission. So maybe we need to take this back a little bit and do it as a city. I mean, they are still going to continue doing whatever they're doing, but the city, I think, needs to take a greater hand in responsibility for this and start trying to encourage some of that development within the city structure itself. We also need to look for other ways to encourage development without just giving away TIF districts and creating them whenever something is being proposed. This is being done in townships throughout this state, where townships cannot, under state law, use TIF districts, and yet they're still having development. So we need to look at other ways other than just creation of TIFs to encourage development. And I think that that would be a good start. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hentz. Finally, Mrs. Maddox, what will you do to encourage economic development?
Well, the first thing I can do is personally support the local businesses that we have here. The local businesses invest in the community, and I believe it's important to let them know how important they are, and I do try to shop and keep my business here. I like to believe that I'm a cheerleader for the city, and that includes the businesses that are here. I try to bring a positive message at the end of each council meeting, because I believe people want to believe the good, and I see my task as bringing the good things that Oshkosh is accomplishing for people to realize that this is a good place. Now, the city has formal partnerships. They have BID, which is the Downtown Business Improvement District. And for about the last 5 years, I have attended their monthly meetings on the 3rd Tuesday of each month. And I support these local businesses who tax themselves above what the city taxes them. And each year they raise their expectations. And now they have a grant and a revolving loan program to promote starter and expanding businesses. And they've also increased the number of community events that they sponsor for all the citizens to enjoy in downtown. Champco, which is the city's industrial development corporation, works very successfully. And in these very difficult times across the country, they're working on retention and recruitment of industry and jobs and developing the industrial parks which we have. And the Chamber of Commerce and the Oshkosh Commercial Development Corporation, which is known as OCDC, fosters development. They create new jobs and maintain the current business community. And I think if you would study the results at the end of each month, which businesses are coming here, we are doing well. In the past, I have written letters to encourage businesses to come and locate in Oshkosh, and I point out the positive things that have happened here in the last 5 years, including the demographics of the revitalizing downtown, the university and our technical college, the development of our waterfront, our excellent school system, because people come here if it's a totally good package. And also the fact that young entrepreneurs are coming to Oshkosh to establish business, and some of them are coming back. My support extends to businesses also locating in a blighted part of the city. Smart growth says, take what you have and look at it. And if this area is at a zero base, tax base, then let's do something about it. And sometimes the one thing the city has is to create a TIF to enable them to either take care of the brownfields, the infrastructure, and start over. And so often, a non-taxing property comes on the tax roll to boost the economic climate for the entire city. I'd like to commend the planning department for a most recent developer's handbook. Just came out. And this should facilitate an organized and orderly sequence which is needed for successful development. And I propose that the department now consider writing a similar handbook for redevelopment. And this has many more hoops and hurdles because there are a little more complications when you deal with older places. But I still think it's important that they also have a guide.
Thank you, Mrs. Maddox. We have 1 minute to respond, and Mr. Youngworth, you are first.
Well, as it was set up here earlier, I really do think that we need more public buy-in for some of these big developments. And I think it is important for all the people to get the right information. And by getting the right information, you may want to go down to City Hall and there's a lot of public documents that you can get on the developments that are in progress or that are going to be done. So I encourage everyone to just get the facts, and then you can base your judgment on whether or not we should be doing some of the things that we are doing as a city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Youngworth. Mr. Bain, 1 minute.
Thank you. I agree. I think we need to make sure that we do increase the transparency and accessibility of the opportunities that are here in Oshkosh, and make sure that we have that buy-in so that people do understand the benefits of economic development. I think I agree with Shirley. Smart growth and supporting local businesses is extremely important, and is something that as a council member we should advocate for and role model through our practices. One thing that concerns me, though, is the comment about leaving in droves, and I don't buy it. 43% property value increase downtown. I believe it was $10 million bringing into the city. New businesses. I don't think businesses are leaving in droves. I think they're realizing that this is a great place to start and establish and either reconnect with a business. Lulu, south of the border, shoe stores. They look at what we're doing with our central city area and they realize this is a place to be. This is a place that I can invest. And finally, I think we need to recognize that you need 4 votes to get something done on the council, but that doesn't mean that as one person, I still can't bring an idea. Thank goodness that Rosa Parks didn't believe that she needed other people to help that movement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bain. Mrs. Shireman.
That was a good one, Mr. Bain. Regarding economic development, like I said, I will continue to be in the pursuit of it. I will continue to be vocal about it. I will continue to educate about it. We have strong partners out there with CHAMPCO and OCDC and the Chamber of Commerce who do very, very fine things every day to bring new businesses to this community and help retain jobs here. We have great momentum right now. We need to continue that momentum, and we can just do that if we all work together in the continued name of economic development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Shireman. Ms. Hintz.
Thank you. Well, it's true, Rosa Parks did it on her own, but she wasn't hand-tied by certain constraints, and she didn't require extra people to help her. Property increases downtown. If the property value increases have been so substantial, then I don't understand why our tax rates continue to go up when they should be coming down, if there's been that much value increased. The fact of the matter is that the value is inflated because the TIF districts have not been finalized. They haven't been closed out yet. So we haven't actually realized the numbers that have been floated around by some of the candidates up here and some of our current city council members. But we do need to have more public buy-in, and it needs to start at the beginning of a project, and it needs to go all the way through, and that is the starting point that I will continue to hammer on every chance that I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hens. And Mrs. Maddox, 1 minute, please.
One of the most important things in determining where businesses want to set up is the quality of life in that city. And cities that are seen as attractive and good for business are also good for people to live in. So I believe that creating a lovely place will also attract people who want to bring their businesses to Oshkosh because it is a lovely place. And also, tourism ties into this. People don't go to some place that's just hanging on by the skin of their teeth. They go to a place that's moving, that has, there's life there. And I believe life is growing here in Oshkosh. And with that base, we can buy into the wonderful availability of the tourism market. And we have all the museums and the natural resources to sustain that.
Thank you, Mrs. Maddox. We will now allow each of you 1 minute to summarize any topics that you feel you were not able to complete this evening. And we will do this in reverse order of the introductions. So, Mrs. Shireman, we will start with you.
Thank you. On April 5th, you have 3 choices to make. You have 3 candidates that you can choose who are going to help lead and make Oshkosh a better place to live and do business. Very quickly, I would like to tell you why I think I'm deserving and hoping that you'll vote for me. First of all, I'm a serious candidate. I'm not a single-issue candidate. Second, I stay in touch with the community with the 7 boards and committees that I sit on. Third, I ask tough questions. I think Mr. Kinney, I think Mr. Patek, and I think Mr. Walnick would tell you that, as I've met with them 9 times in the last 3 months. I won't make promises I cannot keep. I say it like it is. I have the vision and the passion to help make Oshkosh be a better place to live and do business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Shireman. Mrs. Maddox.
I think being retired has given me an opportunity to explore all the wonderful avenues in this city. I try to attend as many different committees as I can to understand what is happening in the city. So often, we see one avenue, and we don't see how they all relate. And so I'd like to think that my position as 4 years on the council gives me a kind of a good overview of where we are and where we can proceed in the future. And I'd like to believe that it's a positive future ahead of us. So I ask you to consider me for one of your votes.
Thank you, Mrs. Maddox. Mr. Youngworth.
Well, there are a lot of very exciting things, I think, that are going to happen in the city of Oshkosh in the next couple of years, and I would like to be a part of them. I am for development in this city. I am also for responsible spending. I think that's something that's a big issue that we have forward in Oshkosh. We've got a lot of things up and coming. I'd like to be a part of them, and I ask for your vote on April 5th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Youngworth. Ms. Hintz.
Thank you. Well, again, I want to thank Progress Oshkosh for putting on this debate this evening, and folks for coming and watching at home. I do ask for people's vote on Tuesday, April 5th. I think that, I am a common person with some common sense, and I think that that is what this city council has needed for some time, and I would like to be one of the selections that people make on Tuesday, April 5th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hintz. And Mr. Bain.
Thank you. I too would like to thank Progress Oshkosh, the Grand, and all the other supporters and sponsors of tonight. A vote for Brian Bain on Tuesday, April 5th is a vote for someone who will study the issues, who will ask the questions, who will actively listen, and who will make the tough decisions. I have a personal vested interest in this community. I want to raise my family here, establish myself, and live here the rest of my life. That is the commitment that I will bring to you as a council member. I want to work to improve our quality of life, to make Oshkosh a business and family-friendly place to live. You will get accountable, dependable, and proud service out of me. I understand we won't always agree, and we won't always maybe get along on all the issues, but I pledge to you that I will listen and involve you so that together we can create a shared vision for the city of Oshkosh. Please vote for me, Brian Bain, on Tuesday, April 5th. Thank you.
And thank all of you. On behalf of Progress Oshkosh, we would like to thank you for participating this evening, and we wish all of you the best of luck on April 5th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Progress Oshkosh is a volunteer, issue-based organization dedicated to bringing progressive change to Oshkosh and its citizenry. With a diverse membership, Progress Oshkosh was established nearly a year ago on 4 principles: economic development, accountability for city and county officials, quality of life, public, private, and nonprofit partnerships. The membership, open to any person who holds these ideals at heart, is working to champion projects and issues through time, talent, and resources. Hundreds of volunteers are working together by communicating, committee planning, and researching in the hopes of better educating all of us regarding the facts surrounding issues that face Oshkosh's future. This film debate is only one of the ways Progress Oshkosh's members have chosen to tackle this process. Candidates Brian Bain, Cheryl Hintz, Joe Youngworth, Councilmember Shirley Maddox, and Meredith Shireman were able to attend and offer their viewpoints from the questions posed specific to Progress Oshkosh's 4 principles. Progress Oshkosh would specifically like to thank the debate sponsors, including the Grand Opera House, Citizens First Credit Union, First Choice Insurance Company, Supli Restaurant Group, Schmiedel Real Estate Management, and Nebula Studios. Additionally, an hour prior to this debate being filmed, Progress Oshkosh hosted a mayoral debate as well with candidates Bill Castle and Paul Esslinger. This half-hour presentation is also running at scheduled times on Oshkosh's Community Channel 2. So finally, I would like to encourage everyone to join and support this volunteer group so we can make a difference. For more information regarding Progress Oshkosh, please visit our soon-to-be-completed website at progressoshkosh.com or stay through to the end of the debate for the credits. Thank you.